have been infected with the virus across China, with most cases found in Wuhan, where a seafood market that illegally sold wild animals has been identified as the epicenter of the outbreak.
More cases should be expected in other parts of China and possibly other countries in coming days. A team from WHO are concluding a mission with health officials in Wuhan working on the response to novel coronavirus. Based on current information, an animal source seems the most likely primary source of this outbreak, with limited human-to-human transmission occurring between close contacts. Based on previous experience with respiratory illnesses, and in particular with other coronavirus outbreaks, and our analysis of data shared by China, human-to-human transmission is occurring. Reports suggest that novel coronavirus infection can cause mild to severe disease and be fatal in some. Based on current data, some new cases seem to experience milder disease, which is within the milder end of the spectrum of symptoms caused by respiratory illnesses.
I think we're now looking at a much larger scale, probably as a nationwide kind of outbreak. The rapidly increasing number of cases reflected that the virus is now in a phase that it could be easily transmitted from man to man. The other thing is that it might be that some of the new cases have not been reported as promptly as it should be. If you look at the phylogenetic tree, it is like a cousin of the SARS coronavirus. It's about 80% similarity in their sequencing. So we're expecting the virus probably to behave very similar to the previous SARS coronaviruses. Unfortunately, the outbreak is currently coincide with the traveling during the Chinese New Year, which if you are in a confined environment within a plane or a train, then it's important that you should be wearing a surgical mask to prevent the transmission of these virus to you or to your family.
We know that it can transmit from people, from humans to humans, but we don't know fully the full extent of that, so that's some of the information we're trying to figure out. We know that this virus usually comes from an animal source, yet we haven't been able to identify what the animal is at the moment. I think that's one of the priorities as well. The fact that it's a respiratory infection means that we always are worried of these. They're far more easier to spread compared to other viruses such as Ebola, which is more through touching bodily fluids. So with respiratory infections, we already see a lot of those in the world. This is winter at the moment in the northern hemisphere, so we are currently dealing with colds, we're dealing with influenza. So having a new virus like this novel coronavirus adds to that concern. We saw over the weekend a drastic increase in cases of this in Wuhan, China. So I think we can imagine that these cases are going to continue to increase. We've already seen some of the cases occur with people traveling from Wuhan into other countries, such as Japan and such as Thailand. So I think we're going to continue to see increase of cases in other countries. So during SARS, there were, criticisms around China not providing enough information, not being transparent. But we have to also remember that is nearly 20 years ago. The world has changed in our governance. The way we organize ourselves when it comes to responding to these types of outbreaks has drastically changed. We have a really strengthened World Health Organization that is working with China at the moment to be able to share this information as soon as possible. There is going to be a lot of movement of people over the next few days and weeks, and we need to then put countries on preparedness. The WHO have released guidance for countries within the region and around the world on how they can prepare themselves, including how they detect this virus for those returning travellers, how they can treat them in the hospital and look after them. So I think those countries need to be prepared and look at those guidance materials.
Every flu season, and we are in the flu season, it's the exact same advice. Hand hygiene. Wash your hands often. Don't rub your nose and mouth. Please take care. If you are ill, put on a mask. If you go into a crowded place, put on a mask, even if you are not ill, because others may be, even if they have cough etiquette or sneeze etiquette, they may still get in touch with you. Try to avoid crowded places. Make sure that you are considerate of others. If you have any symptoms, especially if you have got travel history to Wuhan, then please go and seek medical attention and be honest and open with your doctors.
Singapore's Changi Airport steps up thermal screening to passengers arriving from overseas amid speed of new SARS-alike virus.
Being in Singapore, we're kind of, we take this for granted. We don't really do much, but I think I will now. I'll make sure that I'm wearing a mask, I'm cleaning my hands, and whatever else the government, if they issue some kind of warning as to what we're supposed to do, I'll follow all of those things.
The Ministry of Health, or MOH, said from Wednesday, January 22nd, Singapore will place all pneumonia patients who have been to China in recent weeks under isolation. People who have pneumonia and have traveled to China in the 14 days before their symptoms surfaced will be isolated in hospital as a precaution to prevent transmission. Those who have acute respiratory infection and had visited any hospital in China in the 14 days before they fell ill will also be isolated. To date, only suspect cases with fever and pneumonia and with travel history to Wuhan, the center of the virus outbreak, have been subject to isolation. Countries have been intensifying efforts to stop the spread of the pathogen, known by its technical name 2019 novel coronavirus, as the number of cases jumped. The authorities at the Soekarno-Hatta International Airport in Indonesia's capital, Jakarta, step up thermal screening to passengers arriving from overseas amid speed of new SARS-like virus. Take a look.
Tahu tapi nggak begitu jelas lah ya. Soalnya saya di Mako sendiri sudah ada pencegahan untuk yang kerja di sana selalu menggunakan masker dan badan nggak sehat cepat ke dokter gitu aja.
The Health Ministry has issued a travel advisory for Indonesians who wish to travel to countries affected by the Wuhan coronavirus and handed out health alert cards to passengers arriving from China and other affected countries. Authorities also said that all 135 entry points into the country had been equipped with thermal scanners that could identify a person's body temperature remotely through cameras. Cambodian airports introduced the thermal scanners to detect passengers with signs of coronavirus as authorities step up their defense against the new SARS-like virus, first discovered in China's Wuhan. Take a look.
ហើយចំពោះអ្នកដែលចូលនៅក្នុងប្រទេសយើងធ្វើតែមួយស្កែននេះមានបញ្ហាយើងនឹងពិនិត្យសភាពរបស់គាត់ហើយនឹងសង្ស័យយើងបញ្ជូនទៅបន្ទប់ដាច់ដោយឡែកនៅមន្ទីរពេទ្យមិនមានបញ្ហាទេយើងត្រូវតែរៀបចំដើម្បីចំណុចបើយើងមានបញ្ហាជាយថាហេតុយើងជួយគេមិនកុំឲ្យវា
Health Ministry spokesperson Lee Sovan said that thermal scanners were being used at airports and the land border crossing at Poipet in Bantay Manche province, adding that the government was used to dealing with similar outbreaks of influenza in the region. There were no reported cases of the novel coronavirus in Cambodia as of Monday. Lee Sovan said, but that health officials were on alert during the Chinese New Year holidays. Chinese travelers and nationals working in Cambodia make up the largest group of tourists and expat workers, respectively. Last year, at least 2 million Chinese tourists visited Cambodia. Malaysia has installed thermal scanners at its Kuala Lumpur airport in a bid to stop the spread of the new SARS-like coronavirus, which first emerged in China's Wuhan as the reach of the deadly disease continues to grow throughout Asia. Here's Lee Boon-che, Malaysia's Deputy Health Minister.
As you can see that over the past few months, we have screened more than 250 passengers, including crews. So that's a large number. And we pick up 61 of them who had fever and none of them had from Wuhan. and none of them had this coronavirus. To look at preparedness of our system with regards to screening for this potential epidemic of new 2019 NCOV, new coronavirus originated from Wuhan. So we are looking at our thermal scan, looking at how our staff are trained to quarantine the patient and also to treat the patient, and they are also have appropriate protecting equipment.
Thailand's health ministry holds a press briefing amid an outbreak of a SARS-like virus originating in China.
Want to make sure that if any tourists appear to be sick before traveling, they should prolong their trip, not trying to insist on coming while they are sick. Then this is the way that they can help controlling the spread of the outbreak. Please do come to Thailand during this Chinese New Year or any time. We will be able to contain the spread of this disease. We will be able to give the proper treatment in case the disease popped up.
Really, our biggest concern at this point is that we're still learning a lot about this virus. We still don't know exactly where it came from. We don't understand fully how it's transmitted. We don't understand completely how it presents and the different symptoms in all cases. We've all recognized that the rapid sharing of information is absolutely critical because we all need to understand this new virus and how it acts so that we can respond appropriately. The public needs to know that if they develop symptoms, respiratory symptoms, fever, cough, before they travel, they should see their doctor and they shouldn't travel. If they develop symptoms while they're traveling or when they arrive at their destination, they should see a physician or a healthcare provider and get checked out. There are some differences, some important differences. What we call the case fatality rate or the lethality of the SARS coronavirus was much greater. And again, we haven't learned everything about this new coronavirus, but we do notice that it was that the SARS virus was much more severe.
The kingdom's airports will receive hundreds of thousands of Chinese tourists over the Lunar New Year holiday. There have now been 4 reported cases of novel coronavirus infection found in Thailand, 3 Chinese tourists and 1 Thai. Thai officials were stepping up screening at airports to look for passengers with high body temperatures, coughs, headaches, and trouble breathing.
Net25 is now available on OSN, the largest entertainment network in the Middle East and North Africa. Watch your favorite Net25 shows on OSN channel 725, same day as the Philippines. Net25 shows live and on demand anytime, anywhere, on any mobile device on OSN Play.
Welcome back. Singapore on Wednesday denied claims by a Malaysian rights group that it used a brutal coup de grace to finish off a botched executions and ordered Yahoo and other sites to correct reports of the matter. The Malaysia-based Lawyers for Liberty alleged last week that Singapore prison officers had been instructed to manually break the necks of prisoners if the rope used to hang them broke during executions. This was done by kicking the back of the prisoner's neck, said the group, which based its report on information from an anonymous prison officer. The city-state imposes the death penalty for crimes such as drug trafficking and murder, and hanged 13 people in 2018, this according to official data. Singapore's Ministry of Home Affairs on Wednesday slammed the allegations as untrue, baseless, and preposterous, noting that the rope had never broken during a hanging. It said all executions are carried out in strict compliance with the law, and the use of any unlawful method would have been investigated and dealt with. It accused the rights group of making the allegations to try and get reprieves for Malaysian drug traffickers. Using a new law against online falsehoods, the Interior Minister also ordered Yahoo Singapore, a local activist, and a political website to carry correction notices alongside their reports on the issue. The minister asked Lawyers for Liberty to do the same, but the organization said it would not comply. And I quote, "Singapore has no business interfering with the freedom of speech of Malaysian citizens, making statements within our own country," the group said in a statement. An opposition political party has for the first time challenged the law in court amid concerns it was being used to stifle criticism ahead of elections, and a judge has reserved a judgment on the case. The legislation gives authorities the power to order corrections placed next to posts they deem false. Since the law came into force in October, several opposition figures and activists have been ordered to place a banner next to online posts stating that they contain false information. Meanwhile, Southeast Asia needs to urgently tackle the issue of air quality and pollution, which has become among the main cause of death and health deterioration among the population, while also affecting economic growth and investment, according to reports. Thai news portal and Tiger said air pollution in the capital here had worsened over the weekend with high levels of PM 2.5. The worst affected was the Phra Nakhon district, the home of the Grand Palace on the banks of the Chao Phraya. PM 2.5 refers to atmospheric particulate matter that have a diameter of less than 2.5 micrometers, which is about 3% the diameter of human hair. Particles smaller than 2.5 micrometers can bypass the nose, throat, and penetrate into the lungs, and some may enter the circulatory system. Studies have found a close link between exposure to fine particles and premature death from heart and lung diseases. Fine particles are also known to trigger or worsen chronic diseases, such as asthma, heart attack, and bronchitis. It would give the Bangkok Metropolitan Administration the authority to fine business operators for worsening the dust pollution, suspend dust-causing activities such as construction, and require the guilty parties to pay more tax, said the Council President Sukat V. Suwansawat. Vietnam's main cities, Ho Chi Minh and Hanoi, last year often choked on haze, with the air quality index of each city hitting very unhealthy levels, according to portal E.VNexpress. This was due to construction, the increasing number of vehicles, and heavy industry, including steel works, cement factories, and coal-fired plants. In the Philippines, air pollution had become one of the biggest health concerns, recording 45.3 deaths for every 100,000 people, the third highest in the world, according to a 2018 World Health Organization study. In Indonesia, 123,753 yearly deaths were attributed to air pollution, said the Jakarta Post. The capital had the worst air quality in Southeast Asia in 2018, with daily average air quality being 4.5 times worse than the limit set by WHO. This according to a Greenpeace study published in March. In other news, the permanent mission of the Philippines to ASEAN, headed by Ambassador Noel M. Survigon, joined other member states and delegates in the first Committee of Permanent Representatives, or CPR, meeting for the 2020 under the chairmanship of Vietnam at the ASEAN Secretariat in Indonesia's capital on January 9th. ASEAN Secretary General Dato Lim Jack Hoy also attended the meeting. The committee tackled a wide range of issues covering the implementation of recommendations on the strengthening of ASEAN's institutions and arrangement for upcoming events with dialogue partners. Discussions also set the CPR 2020 work plan, including the identification of specific deliverables and priority areas. The Jakarta-based CPR is comprised of the 10 permanent representatives and ambassadors of the ASEAN member states, namely Brunei, Darussalam, Cambodia, Indonesia, Lao PDR, Malaysia, Myanmar, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. The CPR convenes at least once a month and is supported by a working group composed of the mission's deputy permanent representatives and other officers. It is the main body tasked to assist the ASEAN Coordinating Council and conduct the external relations of the regional bloc. Together with the ASEAN Secretariat, the CPR coordinates all three pillars of the ASEAN community and endeavors to strengthen the institutions of the body, including its secretariat. And that is the latest news in the Southeast Asian nations. Stay updated about the ASEAN region. I'm Judith Yamera, and I'm 1 with 25.